We were 3,000 men of the 16th Battalion on October the 4th, 1914. I was 50 years old, but when the call came, I answered, of course, and they made me a private in the Australian Imperial Expeditionary Force. They came in their thousands, drunks, rogues and thieves, to a camp outside Perth. The food was quite poor and the earth was all dust and I couldn't breathe. Though I'd been a lieutenant 30 years past, they made me a private, and I'd been miscast. We sailed from Victoria on a rusty old hulk they'd called the Ceramic. A submarine slides at our sides through the sea. Christmas came and went as a Sunday, and there wasn't enough plum duff to share out. Strictness prevails, and our letters are censored, and no one from shore is allowed on the ship. We are cramped and ill-fed, and there's the smell of ammonia from the hospital ward, and I hear our first soldier has died of pneumonia. We are bound for Colombo and should reach there next week. Vaccinations today as the submarine travels ahead of the transports submerged in the sea. If a convoy of warships is with us right now, they cannot be seen, though it's said that they visit our ships in the night. Our drill consists of rifle practice, bayonet drill and physical jerks. It often makes me smile to think I'm doing contortions at my time of life, but it must be all right, as it works. Our fare has fallen off of late, is far too poor to keep men fit. It's a great mistake to feed men food that sickens the stomach and makes us feel queasy. Our hospital ward is filling up. The men feel uneasy and fear for their future. 2 more deaths from the ship's bad breath, and the officers dine well, and the CO smiles though we've starved for miles, and the rumour spreads throughout the ship that we sailed to the Dardanelles. The sight of an island clad with palms was refreshing, a beautiful green as we sailed through the Indian Ocean, half starved whilst a new vaccine is given to the soldiers with experimental pills. But the jabs have made so many arms sore we can no longer do our bayonet drills. The ship is overcrowded, massive though she is. I must write to General Birdwood to ask about advancement. I have no hope under my CO, and I'm tired of all these rogues below. Today is Mother's birthday, and a good few more years are yet to run for her, I trust. None of us, it is safe to say, will reach her age. Scarlet fever stalks the ship as 2 more deaths in our floating cage. We are on our way to Cairo, 44 ships in all. Pneumonia took a man last night, and we'll make Suez at first light. Few will be sorry to step ashore to escape the crowding, vile rations and the bad air down below. The officers fare sumptuously and make sure they're okay, with wholesome food, fresh, not stewed. They're looking after number 1, and our CO is a smiling cove whom we see just once a day. These officers should have been selected from those who'd seen some service, but all of ours have lived their lives on a leather office chair as clerks and scholars pushing pens. I'm angered. It's unfair. Another death has taken place, and the body will be buried overboard without a trace. Arrived in Suez at first light, it's held by ANZAC and Indian troops, brown men and white men working together to defeat the common enemy, though the white men won't allow his brother Indian soldier to become a citizen of his country, though he now stands at his shoulder. I saw Punjabis, Sikhs and Gurkhas. They gave us an ovation, their officers great contrast to those of our own nation. We passed through the canal with 2 French warships. As an airplane soared above, the banks on both sides were lined for some miles with Indian and British troops. Some of the Indian troops, I heard, were later shot due to a misunderstanding, according to the British. I never heard what the Indians said from their officers commanding. Another death from the ship's bad breath, and the officers dine well, and the CO smiles though we've starved for miles as we sail to the Dardanelles. We left for Alexandria. No fresh fruits have been given to the men, although lots came in the officers' baggage. We have been 6 weeks without lettuce or cabbage. We arrived in Cairo, glad to leave the ship. I with a cough I couldn't shake, run down and wanting good nutrition, some vegetables and steak. Our kit weighed 50 pounds. We were forced to carry it over 3 miles of sand to a camp in Heliopolis. I feel like Odysseus. The officers have a hotel. Yes, we're starved and we're sick and I've no swagger stick, and the officers have a hotel, and the officers dine on fresh food and fine wine, and we sail to the Dardanelles. Today I travelled to the pyramids, the Sphinx and Pharaoh's tombs. Some drunk Australian troops have spilled from the pyramid's top. They all were killed. The death chambers are wonderfully built. We are drilled every day through the sand and the hills, march, double march, but the men are too weak. The burial room in the Pyramid of Cheops is well worth a visit. It captures death's confined mystique. Not one of our officers has served any time. They read about it in books, and they don't like the troops wearing ribbons and medals. It shows them up for who they are. The brigadier drives his motor car and goes home for dinner, and we eat what is peddled down in the bazaar. We shall, when we leave, be classed as effective. On Sunday last I revisited the pyramids and entered the second one, clambering through the passage on my stomach. I think I've had enough of them and this land of the dead, this land of no breath, and instead I look forward to what lies ahead. Heard from General Birdwood, it's in the hands of my CO, but he hopes to see me at the front. My chance may come at last, who knows? I have had a cough for the last 5 months. Our blankets are damp every day. They're never dried in the fresh sunlight, and we sail to a cold, wet place. I am 50 years old with a cough and a cold that has lasted 5 months to spell, and we're eating from tins or we scavenge from bins, and we sail to the Dardanelles. Frank Parker died today. Of meningitis, I've heard them say. He was lively just 3 weeks ago, but this stinking tin that we've sailed in starves our life away. Left Cairo on April the 10th, 1915, having marched with very heavy kit since 8 p.m. The ship is not feeding the men. Rations issued on shore, biscuits, bully meat, jam and cheese are the things piled in our store. The engines have broken down twice and our water supply is tight. We have no wireless, but by night movement is restored. Once more this derelict moves forward and landbirds and dragonflies come on board. The islands of the Greek archipelago arise in the morning, bare and rocky like Calypso's lair. I must hope that General Birdwood will grant my commission with a pip, not stripes. Nothing else will do. Nothing else is right. Lemnos rises on the horizon, her harbour filled with warships and a man of war, torpedo boats and a gunboat, 30 warships, French and English, and a hospital ship, and the sight of women, nurses running round the decks. How sweet to see the fairer sex. 200 rounds of ammunition are served to us with 3 days' rations, an appalling weight to carry. A Turkish ship skulks in the distance. Our CO then told us we were destined for the Western Dardanelles. We will land under fire from 150,000 Turks and 18,000 Germans, all berserk. Our rations, he continued, would have to last indefinitely. I saw 2 seaplanes far, far above, circling like 2 doves in love. Several platoons went ashore today bearing 70 pounds dead weight. They marched and bathed and came back aboard. 4 found time for drink and whores and came back very late. Yesterday the adjutant told us only 20% would likely be lost on the beach. What a stupid thing to say for even a young officer now we're at the breach. This morning the vicar preached on the fact we were verging on action, and soon he might be preaching over us instead. What tact. I don't look for much bloody contact with the Turk. Our forces are as numerous as his, but we will be landing poorly supplied. Water and fuel are scarce, I'll confide, and we're told to carry bundles of wood. What good is that? Wood, what good? Today we all landed on Lemnos. The villagers brought out goods for sale. I was glad of some fresh bread, as no such thing had passed my lips since Egypt and the land of the dead. Went to the beach and had a swim, and stretched my limbs and wet my head. I've discovered that some transports are feeding their men and feeding them well, whilst we have had no meat or green since the dust storms of Cairo fell. If some ships can feed their men well, why must we starve on this eve of hell? Our sleeping quarters are on a dirty iron deck, as cold as the South Pole. No windsails provided on hot days, no shelter from the rain. Such are those who are leading us, it's like sleeping in a drain. A letter is read from Lord Kitchener. Remember, remember, once you set foot on the Gallippoli Peninsula, you must fight the thing through to a finish. The whole world will be watching our progress. Prove yourselves worthy and don't let the empire diminish. A letter from Mother says she hopes I am better and are they looking after me. This is the last time I can write. Rain comes and wets my letter. Yes, it's raining and wet, and we're soaked in our sweat, and we sleep on the ship's iron shell. We are on the offence, so let battle commence. Now we're here at the Dardanelles. We take 1 pint of water, 3 days' rations, and 200 rounds, firewood, and a Macintosh sheet, a dead weight of 89 pounds. We are on our way. Tuesday, 27th of April. Last night was wet, and those who went ashore must have had a miserable night, fighting all around us by the sounds, and I venture to predict, in 3 weeks' time we will be knocking on the doors of Constantinople. We are on our way. We are on our way. The dirigible is up, and this should be a busy day.
Dear Sir, I notice a report of the unveiling of a tribute to the late Private Richard Henry Chase, in which it states that he was killed at Gallippoli on April the 27th, 1915. That is incorrect. Private Chase was killed by my side at 11 o'clock. He received a bullet between the eyes and never spoke. To the men, he was a rock and finest of mates and gamest of fighters. In my humble opinion, he fully deserved the honour conferred.